Hello, my name is Ashley Abood, and I did my PLAP project on someone from Venezuela who speaks Spanish. So the main topics I'm going to go over that I have learned are culture, education, and language. So with culture, in Venezuela, their culture isn't too different, but some main points that I would like to address are honestly surprising to me. The first one is that in Venezuela, gender roles are heavily based on something called machismo. This is where the male is usually in control of the female. And the reason why this is interesting to me is because we don't see much of this anymore. Yes, back then we used to see where males were always the one going out, they were the one who was working and having the job, and the women stayed home and did not work. Although that has changed, and that is not what you see nowadays. Nowadays, it is equal that the man and the woman go and work. The reason why this wasn't too shocking to me is because all of us know that this is how culture used to be. So it's not unheard of, but it's interesting that they still follow this. Another aspect of this culture is that people are much more friendly and positive there. And eye contact is more kept when speaking to someone, especially to adults or elders. This was interesting to me because it doesn't seem that a lot of people are friendly. You always hear that most people are mean. So this is very nice to hear, and also interesting for someone who hasn't lived in the U.S. and has to come back and come into the US, and that they are used to people being friendly all the time and then have to adjust to them not being so friendly. Although I do think the eye contact is a little bit more the same, because we always know that people are told to respect their elders. So this seems pretty normal to me. Next thing I want to talk about is education. The education system in Venezuela has its same things that we do, but are a lot better there. The students are usually more ahead here than here in the US. They're smarter. For instance, it was interesting that they are taught sex education classes and anatomy in elementary school, which is where we are taught in towards the end of junior high and in high school. Students, when they transfer to the US, they take an entrance exam to place them into the respective grade level, because usually they are ahead, so this causes them to skip some grades. This wasn't too surprising to me because I have heard that other places are smarter than us, but it's interesting that they are taught the sex education in elementary school, because I feel as if they're very young, and that is a young age to be learning all of those things. Another thing is that sometimes instead of students changing classrooms for each subject, the teachers are the ones changing classrooms most of the time. Also, all students are always required to wear uniforms, and there's 20 to 30 students in a class. This is interesting to me because this is only private schools are where you have to wear uniforms, and also we normally have about in the middle of 20 probably students, but not up to 30 I've never seen. And also they have no technology in their classes, and that the students can go home for lunch. Last thing I would like to talk about is language. So the language of Spanish is very interesting, and it is like English. So the alphabet has almost the same amount of letters, but it has one extra letter in it. And since languages are similar, not many people should have a dramatically hard time learning either language when they already know the other. There are many of the same cognates, which can make it easy when learning the other language because you're already familiar with some of the words. I personally think a student wouldn't have much of a difficulty learning the differences of languages as long as they are putting effort into doing so. And I do believe it's easier to learn this language as well as any other language when you're younger, because if not, whenever you grow up, you know all your grammar rules and all the different rules of your own language. But then trying to learn another language, you have to push aside all of those rules of your own language to learn the next one. So how will I implement all of this information that I have learned into my classroom and into my future? So overall, I feel as if this project has taught me a lot. Not only has it taught me a lot about the Spanish language and the Venezuela culture, but about ELLs. For taking this class and even before this project, I didn't know much about ELLs, honestly, and it is very possible that I will have them in my classroom one day. So having them can be hard for both me and the student. Personally, there are a few main things that I personally would implement into my classroom to make it easier for everyone. I would make sure to adapt the educational system to reflect its multicultural and multilingual community. With this being done, no culture will be left out and all of the students will learn from each other, which will help them become smarter and become diverse in different languages. I also try to make sure to build more group work, and with doing this, the students are going to continuously work together and learn from one another. Last but not least, I will always remember to make sure my classroom is a welcoming environment so no student feels judged or different because of the language they have learned and that they speak. I believe if all this is done, all the students from each different culture will feel good about being in my classroom and feel as if it's a safe place. And a couple fun facts I wanted to include was that the Spanish writing system has 27 letters. Spanish often use the diacritical marks over their vowels. Everyone's required to do physical education when it comes to school, and the discipline in the education system is stricter.